Absolutely.
Good evening, everyone. I'll now call the meeting to order and welcome to our July Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Without further ado, we'll get right into the business here. I'll try not to keep everyone too long this evening, and we'll move right forward. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest as a general nature thereof of any of the items? Seeing none, thank you. Could I have an approval of the agenda as presented for July the 18th? Mr. Edison, Councillor McHugh, all in favor? Carried, thank you. I would like now a motion to approve the minutes of June the 20th, and I would entertain any questions, errors, omissions, what might have been detected in those minutes. Mover and a seconder, please. Mr. Brown, Councillor Quinte. Any questions, errors, omissions of those minutes? Seeing none, thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, we'll move right into the public meetings as subscribed under the Planning Act. The meetings are conducted as prescribed by Section 3413 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended for one zoning bylaw amendment application affecting land in the Trenton Ward and one zoning bylaw amendment affecting lands in the Sydney Ward. The meeting will be conducted in the following manner for each application. First, I'll identify the application being considered. Then I'll ask planning staff to outline the application being considered. Then ask if there are any members of the public who have been registered in advance to attend and participate in the meeting and may have any questions or comments regarding each application. If there are no public comments or questions, I will ask the committee if they have any questions or comments, and once committee's questions or comments have been addressed, the committee will consider and vote on each application. If you wish to provide comments, please state your name and address for the record prior to addressing the committee. This committee has been delegated the responsibility to conduct public meetings as prescribed under the Planning Act. A full report of the meeting's proceedings will be submitted to City Council on Wednesday, August the 14th, 2024. Council will make the decision on each stated application. Anyone other than the applicant who wishes to receive further notice of Council's decision on each application must submit a written request for notice of Council's decision to the Director of Planning Development Services. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services, please advise the committee on how notice of these meetings were given. Brian, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Notice of the application has been considered this evening. We're given in keeping with the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended by first-class mail on June 28, 2024, and posting of signs on the subject properties on the same date.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll start with the first public meeting of the evening, 7.1, a staff report 24-06PD, the zoning bylaw applications, and the owners Michael and Denise Lamar, and the location is 37 and 39 Bay Street. The file number is D09/T26/24. Madison, would you like to address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this zoning amendment is to satisfy a condition of consent application B47/23T, which was conditionally approved on December 14th, 2023. Through consent application B47-23T, a 433 square meter parcel of land was severed from 39 Bay Street and added to 37 Bay Street. The effect of this application would be to rezone the subject properties to the residential type 3 exception 29 zone and the open space exception 1 zone. Applying the residential type 3 exception 29 zone would recognize the existing 0 meter front yard setbacks from both semi-detached dwellings, while the open space exception 1 zone would recognize the existing accessory structures in the rear yard of the properties. No new development is being proposed through this rezoning application. At the time of this application, the applicant has already applied for an encroachment through the City Clerk's Department as the concrete steps used to access the dwellings encroach into the city's road allowance. This application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the City of Quinte West official plan. This application is therefore recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone in attendance other than the applicant who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Do we have anyone in attendance who wishes to speak in opposition or have general questions regarding this application? Seeing none, I would ask the committee to consider the application, and as you've heard, the recommendation is to approve, and I would entertain a motion or any questions. Mr. Edison, Councillor Quinte. Seconds it. Any questions or comments regarding this application? If not, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We now move to the application of 7.2, Staff Report 24-061 PD, a zoning bylaw amendment application. The owner is Jacob Telsma and Janice Platt. The agent is Spencer Hutchison. The location is 991 Old Highway 2. File number is D09/S20/24. Katie, would you like to address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this rezoning is a condition of consent application B17/24S, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on April 11th, 2024. Under the consent application, the Committee of Adjustment approved one new 1.6 hectare lot. Prior to the submission of this application and the consent application, the applicant successfully amended the city's official plan in 2023, and a portion of the lands were placed in a site-specific policy area. The purpose of the official plan amendment was to redesignate a portion of the subject lands in order to permit the creation of one new lot within the future development area, and further to allow for the highway commercial uses on partial services. This application proposes to rezone the severed lands from the Development Exception 1 zone to the Rural Commercial Exception 19 zone. The retained lands would remain in the Development Exception 1 zone and the Provincially Significant Wetland Zone. The applicant has requested several site-specific zone provisions to be included in the Rural Commercial Exception 19 zone. The special provisions being requested are to reduce the minimum parking requirement, allow the maximum permitted area for outdoor storage of 6,000 square meters, and allow for a range of permitted uses, including a recreational vehicle sales establishment, a motor vehicle dealership, and an equipment sales, rental, and repair establishment. The proposed list of permitted uses is comparable to the uses that are already existing along this portion of Old Highway 2, as there are several commercial rural properties within the immediate area, including Conan Nurseries, Occasions by the Bay, and Quinte RV Center to the south. In support of the application, the applicant has supplied a preliminary site plan which shows a 920 square meter shop and showroom located in the southern portion of the property. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the city's official plan, and maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. This application is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone in attendance other than applicant wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none. Anyone have general questions or objections regarding this application? Seeing none, would the applicant like to speak? I'll get to you eventually, Spencer. Please state your name for the record. I know most of us know you, but
Spencer Hutchison. Service announcement. 3 weeks tomorrow, Quinte West hosts the Cameron 27th. Yes, 27th. We have 122 teams registered with close to 1,900 kids, parents, and stuff. So it'll be a great weekend in 3 weeks.
Yep.
End of announcement. As noted by Ms. Whitehead, thank you very much. This is a third application. You did an official plan in the fall, you did a severance, or your committee of adjustment did as a severance, and now we're putting the uses on the property. So it's sort of 3 times before the public and yourself or the committee of adjustment. The site plan is there, basically in the south end of the property, adjacent to the highway, much like the trailers, the boats, the cars, a display area, a building in and behind, and then storage area behind, which is right, pushed over to the east side. The driveway is on the east side. There is significant vegetation on the site right now, and this afternoon I drove up the east side of Kenron Estates and talked to the owner of the last trailer house in the top right corner there and then one below it, and we walked in their backyard, and I said, you'll never see what's, and they agreed, it's humongous. And as shown on the stylized green line, we'll leave a massive, vegetation of existing buffer so that, noise, visual pollution, all that won't be an issue to the residents over there. And as Ms. Whitehead said, this is the uses found in this area, and it'd be a good use for some economic development and adding some commercial activity along that section of Old Highway 2. I don't know if there's any questions.
is there any questions from the committee? Councilor Neal and then Ms. Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To you, Spencer. Originally, I thought the intent was to put the motorsports in. I notice it's on Sydney Street, so right now you're going to be looking for a tenant. Is that going to be correct?
Yeah, so when this process started with the official plan, there was a, defined tenant. I don't know how the relationship worked in terms of the owners and the tenant. Bottom line is, as you noted, the tenant potential tenant just opened, so they're not at the table right now. So that's why we started with the original use and added a few more things for marketing purposes. I'll just turn in a second. I don't believe there's anybody lined up at this hour. No. It's to get it severed off the vacant land to make it marketable.
Okay, Ms. Simmons?
I just have the question, why have you decreased the amount of parking? Because it's depending on what goes there, there is certain parking going to be required for people employed there, as well as people who will be visiting. I know you mentioned Greenhouse, and Connens' parking lot is overflowing during times of peak season. So I thought it would limit the area if you decrease the amount of parking.
Yeah, so you're quite right. There's a range of uses. Conan at times of the year has a lot of parking, but arguably the Bay Marina and some of the others, I would say, given the size of the lot and the activity, they don't have, the need for more than 12, 15. This is parking at the front, sort of in the green area. There is the opportunity to provide countless parking, like that whole back area inside the black dotted line is just storage area. So, I mean, it could be staff parking, but we don't want to, in the site plan, be forced to provide because we don't believe, like if we had a restaurant, a different question, Conan's different question. But I think for the uses, like a motor repair place or whatever, 20, there's not more than 20 people at any one time, even with employees. So we're comfortable with the 20.
Okay, any other questions in the committee? If not, I would ask that you consider the application, and you've heard Katie say that staff recommend approval, and moved by Councillor McHugh, second by Councillor Katsovas. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Your comments regarding the application and staff reports have been recorded and will be forwarded to the members of council. Together with the minutes of this meeting, council will make a decision to approve or refuse the stated each application at the regularly scheduled council meeting of Wednesday, July the 17th, 2024. We now move to item 8, public input. Do we have anyone in attendance who wish to have any questions or comments about anything in particular? Mark, do you have anything? I know you're the separate public member here. Anyway, thanks for your attendance. Seeing none, we'll move on then. Presentations, we have none. Delegations, none. And so we have one decision item, 11.1, Staff Report 24062 PD, a deeming bylaw application, and the owner is Thomas and Deborah Davis. The location is 67 Trentside Lane. File number is D12/S02/24. Madison, would you like to also address this application, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This application applies to lots 33 and 34 on Registered Plan 1883, which are both owned by Tom and Deborah Davis. The purpose of this application is to deem lots 33 and 34 to no longer be part of a plan of subdivision, which in turn would consolidate the two existing lots to one lot registered to the applicants. The approval of this application would improve the current situation by creating a larger, more regular-shaped lot compared to the existing lot configuration. Should this application be approved, a minor variance would be required to permit a reduction in lot area from 0.4 hectares to approximately 0.35 hectares, and a reduction in the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 4.7 meters to recognize an existing treehouse on the property. This application is consistent with the city's official plan and zoning bylaw. This application is therefore recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone in attendance who would like to address this? Please come forward, sir. State your name and address for the record, please.
Just hit this button.
I believe it's on.
Okay, sorry. Name's Tom Davis, 67 Trentside Lane. When I bought the property, I thought I bought it as one unit, but there is a planned subdivision that was there from the 70s. Now, obviously, Lower Trent is not allowing any building down by that water. So I want to put a tree house up that my wife calls Tom's Folly now. So starting the process, everything, I finally got my permit, but now I need a minor variance. And this deeming bylaw makes more sense, because right now I get 2 tax bills from PAC. So I can consolidate that, get it registered as one lot, and get out of the subdivision that frankly is never gonna happen anyway. It died in the 70s. So that's my process, and I'm incrementally working my way through it. But I just didn't know if you had any questions for me, or.
Okay, committee, I'll go around the table. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Yeah? Councillor McHugh?
Just a comment, the treehouse intrigues me. Is it within casting distance of the river? Or?
That's the problem. Yeah, it is, and it's funny because as all of us, when we were kids, we built tree forts and ground forts and running through the woods. And I always wanted, I've been a licensed carpenter for 40 years. I'm also a professor at Loyalist College, teaching building construction for the last 10. And I always wanted to build a house in the trees. So engineers and this, that, and the other, working with the building department. So I've got it, it's ready, but now it's these final things. But everybody says, well, what are you gonna do with it? I don't really know. I know it's never gonna be an Airbnb or anything like that, but I just had a grandson, so it's sort of, okay, that's who's gonna play in it, so that's where we're at now.
Well, I know there used to be a TV program, Treehouse Masters or something I used to watch once in a while. They were pretty lavish buildings that they had there.
Oh, yeah. And I did 2 years of research on it and had to buy specialty hardware, because when you marry it into a tree,
Yeah.
you have to allow that tree to grow, not only to let it grow out, because it doesn't grow up, but you have to have hinge points that will support. And so it was very interesting. I bought books and talked to a guy in Seattle that does it
Yep.
for a living.
Yep.
And he was very helpful. He sent me hardware, well, I paid for it, but he walked me through the whole thing to get it to where it's gonna be a structure that will last.
Oh, whenever you get it done, maybe you'll have an open house and we can
That's
tour
what I
it.
said. I'd be coming up the river going, so.
Anyway, thank you for presentation. There's no other questions. Okay, committee, you've heard the recommendation to approve this. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just have a question. Why is the tree house there? Is that where the tree is?
The trees are there, but what I did was I put 2 LVLs, like the beamwork, into the trees to make sure I oriented it, and then it stopped there. So when they say the tree house is there, it actually isn't there. It's 2 beams on each side that is prepared for the floor, and because then the way it worked out was the building department said, okay, like, this is beyond us. Like, you're putting structure on root base. And so they said, we need an engineer. So I hired an engineer. We went back and forth with a couple of drawings. And then the building department said, you got it, that's what we need. So I haven't done any building on it until all this is done.
No, sorry, what I meant is why that location? Because you have to have a variance. Could it be further away?
Because that's where the trees are.
That's what I wanted to
And
know.
it down by the river. And this all started actually with, I forget her name, Janet, I believe, with Lower Trent.
Janet,
Because I
nice.
wanted to put a bunkie down there. So I was getting a permit for my addition that I put on the house, which is 300 feet away from the river. So I said, can I build a bunkie? She goes, no, you can't be doing that. I said, well, can I put it in the trees? She said, absolutely. So I said, okay. So that's how this all started. was, I'll put it in the trees then. So that's how we got here.
You're above the flood line.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Quinte moved it, I believe. Ms. Simmons, you want to second it? Sure. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of approval? Carried, thank you.
There you go.
You're on your way. Well, partially, I guess you got to have the minor variance yet, so. Maybe that'll come up next month, I'm not sure, Kelly. Okay, we move into item 12, printed information. We have the monthly planning reports, A, B, and the building department reports, and the committee, site plan committee meetings, 12.2. I'd entertain a motion to receive all three, and then any questions you might have. Mr. Edison, Councilor McHugh, any questions regarding any of those? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, non-printed, we have none. Requests for information. Gerard, do you have anything? Councilor Card? Holy God, I'm getting off easy tonight. Mike? No? Dave? Huh? JD? Holy God. Aaron? Oh, Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Jardine. Our application for the official plan, any word on that? Or has it been lost?
I've been reliably informed that it's not been lost. It's probably covered in dust by this time, but it's still there. No, we had a meeting, well, we've had a number of meetings with ministry staff. They're always fairly reluctant to give dates or projections, but they and Kelly can punch me if I'm misinterpreting here, but they led us to believe that a decision is forthcoming on their official plan. We're expecting what they term a pre-decision, which is kind of running us through what some of the changes might be. We do expect to see some changes that came out of provincial policy changes, but we haven't received anything in relation to some of the changes that we made as a municipality and the council endorsed. We expect them all to go through in terms of our growth plan and that type of thing. So I think our last meeting was maybe just over a month ago, and they said sometime in the next few months we should see something, so. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Quinte?
Going to be quiet tonight.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Your turn.
I'll wrap this up, but first of all, Director Jardine, we have another new face on your staff here. I know I've seen it when it was advertised as a new employee, but maybe for the rest of the people in attendance, you can explain who that person is and what their job is.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, we seem to have quite a lot of new faces these days. Yeah, it's a pleasure to introduce Doug Collette. Doug is the new supervisor of the development team. That's the title, yeah. Yep. So under Public Works, if you remember the last couple of meetings, and increasingly we've had members of Doug's team, Jed and I think more recently John, attend the meetings. So what we're trying to do in relation to the planning stuff is make sure that we have somebody from the engineering review department here to speak to planning applications, particularly where they relate to the more technical applications, the site plans, the subdivisions, that type of thing. So Doug has joined us. He was with Innisfil before, and it's great to have him on board. We've been working towards trying to fill this position for a long time. It's a new position with the organisation. That team has expanded. Even just a couple of years ago, we really only had one person that was reviewing all of the engineering submissions for planning applications. We now have a more robust group led by Doug, and he will be the face of that group when it comes to planning applications coming in front of this committee. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome, Doug, and we look forward to working with you. Yeah, welcome. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next hard motion is adjournment. But before you say that, I have some news here. Maybe you're going to be sad, but I know staff and I had discussed whether we have a meeting next month, and I think there's maybe you can explain, we have a shortage of applications, I guess, in a sense, for that month. And so without further ado, I hope you will not be too sad. Our next meeting will be Thursday, September the 19th. So you get next month off to do whatever on this Thursday type.
I'll chair the August meeting.
Have at it. So without further ado, moved by Mr. Edison, and I have a seconder. Mr. Forsyth.
There we go.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.